Yes.
Okay.
Ideally,
Or place you, yeah.
or place you.
Yeah.
Fish for you, or
Yes.
place you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that the initial discussion you have is critical because you want to be very clear about the type of opportunities that you're going to be interested in. You don't want them, I mean, it depends on your situation. I mean, if you're looking to land a job, say you've just come to this country and you're trying to gain US experience, then you're kind of almost going to be open to anything.
Because ideally, if you apply with a recruiting company and they accept you and they interview you and they're like, okay, we're trying to look for jobs for you, what are some of the angles, or what are some of the non-negotiable or non-reducible minimums can you offer? Can you let them know so that you can get maybe what is best for you and your skill set?
So are you saying this is a recruiting agency that is going to fish for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Ideally,
Or place you, yeah.
or place you.
Yeah.
Fish for you, or
Yes.
place you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that the initial discussion you have is critical because you want to be very clear about the type of opportunities that you're going to be interested in. You don't want them, I mean, it depends on your situation. I mean, if you're looking to land a job, say you've just come to this country and you're trying to gain US experience, then you're kind of almost going to be open to anything. But then if you're more a seasoned professional,
Yes,
then
seasoned. Let's say you're seasoned.
if you're
yeah.
a seasoned professional, then you need to be clear from the get-go and say, these are not the type of opportunities I'm looking for. You have to be clear about what you want. Are you looking for a position that is a temp to hire? If you're looking for a temp to hire type role, those kind of agreements will be a little bit different. If you're looking for just temping, you also have to be very clear that you want a certain amount, like what your take home should be, what you want to net out at. Because a lot of times they'll give you gross and it sounds really amazing because they have their own fees that they need to deduct.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you let them know what their net is so that they can be able to give you the amount that you're looking for. So that's the advice that I would give, is make sure that you have a clear conversation with that recruiter on what it is your bottom line looks like.
So just to hop a little bit on what Mike was jumping on about the recruiters, and my experience with the recruiters is that if I have my way, I'll never deal with them. But then, no, that's been my experience.
Mother than you.
Boss. And it's been because a lot of things would happen. A lot of times what happened is that HR departments basically outsourced. They didn't want to deal with, that whole process. And they're like, you go out there, fish, get the people, bring them in front of us. We'll interview them. We'll go through the resumes and then we'll interview them. And then at that point, if we're willing, yada, 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 we'll give you guys your fee, which sometimes equates to maybe a month of this person's salary, or depends on how you come in, whether you come in as like you said, temp to hire and so on and so forth. But what I've also noticed with a lot of those recruiters, at least when I was going through it, was that what they did is they presented like 20 people, threw you all in, whoever bit got the straw, and then the other 19 people, it's like they keep quiet, they don't say anything, they wait until the next time they have another client that you fit in with a skill set, then they throw in another 20 people, whoever gets bit, and so on and so forth. So after like the third interview of somebody not calling you back, or maybe second, or whatever you want to call it, then you're like, okay, well, this guy's supposed to be working for me, but
they're not.
I'm like, yeah, what's happening here? And you're right. You realize that these jokers are just basically not working for you. So I mean, just in terms of what Uno is saying, what are the telltale signs as a prospective job seeker who's working with either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different recruitment companies to place you? What are the things you're looking for to know whether these guys are serious or they have something or whatever? And then after interviews, what is it that you need to do so that you know either whether you interviewed well, whether you didn't get the job, yada, 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 to make yourself better?
Okay, so what I would suggest is this, 2 things. The first thing is that if you receive a call from a recruiter who's recruiting for an organization, I would go directly to that organization's website and see if that position is posted there. If it is, I would submit the application on that particular website. Secondly, I would go onto my LinkedIn profile and search and see if there's any connection that I have with anybody who is in my network who may have some type of a connection to that role, and try and see if I can connect with that person. That is your best bet. Recruiters who are hiring, who are fishing for companies, that's what they do. They're going to get paid based on commission. Their role is to bring in as many candidates into the funnel and then kind of let the chips fall where they may. Now, what they typically will do is they're typically screening you just to make sure if you fit the profile of what the employer is looking for.
Correct.
So I would not necessarily say put your eggs in that basket. Now, there are, unique situations where you might end up getting hired based on those engagements. But if that's your main source of job search, I would say you need to keep searching. Keep figuring out different ways because they're not there to work for you. They work from themselves to make sure that they bring in the right people in the funnel. And sometimes they're actually getting paid to bring people into the funnel.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And then when somebody lands a role, then they get paid more money there. So the other thing that I would suggest too is that if you have gotten an interview with the company, it is in your best interest, number one, before you walk into the interview, to ask your recruiter to provide you with the names of the people you're going to interview with. This is something that is basic knowledge. Get the names of the interviewers.
Understanding the panel.
Understand who the panel is. You need to know who you're going to interview
That's a big
with.
one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for this is twofold. For me, I think it's important for you to know how you will position yourself when you're approaching this interview. If one of the people on the panel is a VP, you want to make sure that you're prepared because their level of question is going to be different than somebody who's talking to you as a peer. Okay.
Understood.
So the other thing too is as you're going into this interviews, make sure that you're asking your recruiter to provide you with the email addresses of the people who are going to interview you, because then you're going to cut off the middleman as well and be able to communicate directly, whether it's with the hiring manager or somebody in the panel. And then the third thing is
So slow down, Lavera. Email address.
yes.
That's okay. And the reason why I want to slow you down is because you're dropping nuggets that I think, for some people they're hearing for the first time. What are you doing with the email address? Are you emailing the person before you go for the interview?
No, you're not emailing the person before you go to for the interview.
Okay.
So what I would say is the email address you probably want to ask as one of your questions towards the end of the interview.
Okay, great.
So a lot of times, this is another issue that I have with people that I'm working with, is when they go into the interview process and I ask them, so what questions are you going to ask your potential employer? A lot of them are like, oh, when are you looking to hire? What's the organization like? And I'm like, those are not the type of questions you really should be asking. This is another reason why you want to understand who's in your panel. Because if it's a peer, you're going to ask questions like, how long did it get you to get up to speed on the role? If it's a manager, what I usually ask the manager is, what is your expectation of me when I take on this position? What's my learning curve going to be? You want to understand. How long is it going to take me to get with it? And then if I'm talking to a director or a vice president, I'm going to ask them what the long-term goals of the organizations are. So for you to go in there and ask a question of, oh, so what's it like? Do you guys have fun? It's like, are you really, are you invested in this opportunity? Like, what kind of position are you looking for here?
Interesting enough, those are the things that people say,
well, with
those are
today's
the
markets,
things that, those are the
the
things that
youngins
people
are
say.
asking those questions. They want a fun
Oh,
campus.
don't even get me started on the youngins, because there's a whole different mentoring session that needs to happen with our young folks.
And we're going to get to that.